Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today to share a slice of laundry life through a child's perspective. Let me give you a little background history before I tell you the story. The year is 1959, 6 years after I came from China, and 6 years before the passage of the Civil Rights Act. So we never talked about rights that the Chinese had. Oh, and let me give you some background. The location of my father's laundry was in the Mission Hill district of Boston, which is about 3 miles away from Chinatown. And the laundry itself was probably 40 feet by 15 feet. It had five workers and a backyard. The neighborhood in which the laundry was located in is predominantly Irish working class on one side, and on the other side was a government project of mixed races. So on vacation times, I would be allowed to go to the laundry. So I was 9 years old, and of course the laundry was hot, and there was no TV, there was no comic books and no games, and I was just asked to sit and be quiet in the chair by the side of the front desk. Of course, I got, antsy. So I asked my father, can I go outside to just get some fresh air? Previously, I was not allowed to go in there because I was told I could not speak or play with any of the neighborhood kids. I didn't understand why, but I soon found out. So my father relented and he said, okay, you can go outside, but you stay right beside the door and don't go anywhere. I walked 10 feet outside the backyard door, and I saw a group of four white kids. They were about my age and about the same height. And I saw them giggling, and then I saw them approaching me. And as they approached me, they started hitting me with a chorus of unknown Chinese sounds, the anti-Asian nursery rhymes, and everything you could imagine. I got the whole 9 yards. And I didn't like it. And I said, stop. And they stopped for 1 second. And then they came back with even louder and more racial taunts. I must have blanked out because I don't remember what I was thinking, but I know I wasn't thinking. So I picked up a boulder and I was going to chase them and try to hit one over the head with this boulder. And when the kids saw me, they started walking the other way, except for one. He stayed on in a defiant posture. And he said to me, China boy, what are you going to do? And I looked him in the eye, which is contrary to Chinese good manners. I looked him in the eye and I distracted him and I slammed the boulder on his right foot. He yelled out in pain. And then his two buddies came back and brought him back home, I guess. And I said, well, I better retreat back into the laundry. And I went in and I told my father, because they could hear the scream from the kid. And I said in Chinese, which was a slower version of, I threw a pebble at his leg. And of course, I didn't tell him the whole story. A few minutes later, the boy's father came at the back door and demanded to speak to the China boy's father. My father brought me out, and the white father said, your boy slammed a rock into my son's foot. And I looked at it, and sure enough, it was black and blue and bruised. I said, on target. But the father said, what are you going to do about it to make this right? If you don't, I'm going to call the police. And 1 second after I heard the word police, I felt a hard slap across the side of my neck and my face and ears. And I was shocked. And it was my father who slapped me. And he told me, say sorry to the man and say sorry to the boys. And so I'm going, oh, sorry, you know. And he said, oh, get back in the laundry. And my father had a few more words with the father, and then he came back in. And he said, I had to hit you publicly, shame you, and embarrass you in front of them. If I didn't, that man could have come back at night when we were gone and burned the place down. I'm thinking, nobody does that. Nobody burns things down. I just wasn't aware at the tender age of 9. And then he told me, he said, you're not going to be able to go outside to play anymore. You have to stay inside, and you promise not to do anything. Otherwise, you're going to have to stay at home and sit alone. So I thought at that particular moment, I had very mixed emotions. I felt that my father was not the protector that I wanted him to be, that he had succumbed to the white man's power politics. And why was he doing this? And then I thought, geez, this is not understanding. And he then told me, he said, if he burnt this laundry down, I would not have a job. The 4 other men would not have a job. And there would be no way we can recreate this situation where we're all working and supporting our families. So you have to do your part. I said, but they started it by yelling at me. He said, and my dad said, that's nothing. You just disregard it. And it was a very poignant lesson on the race politics in that particular neighborhood. And I understood that. And I kind of felt kind of bad that we were second-class, third-class citizens, and that my father had to live under a veil of threat of violence or fear all the time, in addition to all the hard work that he had to do. So I didn't go back for a year. And later on, I was able to meet some other Irish kids who brought me to their homes and introduced me to American tea with tea bags and cream and sugar and toast. And I said, hey, this is the bomb, you know, so I want to make friends with these people. But in looking back, that day, really, I lost my innocence. And I saw the world in a less rosy picture. But it was a very painful reminder. And somehow it's still deep-rooted in my soul somewhere. But I thought that it was a good interpretation of what life was for one particular child at one particular moment in time. So I want to pay homage to all the laundry workers, their wives and the children of laundry workers, and say, we love you because of all the sustainability and survival that you did to bring yourself up to a piece of America. So I would just want to share a silver lining of my appreciation for my dad, because I didn't understand him at 9, and less so afterwards when I would not follow his advice to remain quiet. He told a friend of mine who came from California to visit, he said, hey, Ron, my son Richard has a pretty good job. And so Ron said, what kind of job does he do, Mr. Chin? And my father said, I don't know, but he works in an office and he can sit down at a desk and somebody pays him to work. Now that's a good job. So with that, I'm closing, and I hope you could be inspired by bits of my story and share whatever parts of it that you might have experienced yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And hello to everyone. Thank you for joining. My background, I'll give you a little bit, is I was born in Wilmington, Delaware in 1950. And my father came to America around 1930 as a paper son. My mother was the first Chinese baby born in Wakefield, Massachusetts, but went back to live in Hong Kong prior to World War II and didn't come back to America until after World War II. I am one of 4 children by my parents, and our ages were about 5 years apart. And I was the oldest. And we grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, which was very different than Boston. There were only 4 Chinese families in the whole city of Wilmington, which at that time probably had 50,000 people. And my father and mother owned the laundry. We lived above it in the heart of the downtown. And when I say downtown, I mean all stores and all shops. We were the only family for 4 square blocks. And we lived on one side was the black section, and the other side of us was the white section. So we were sort of in the DMZ, if you will. And I do remember racism as pretty prevalent there, and I can still remember whites only signs. So that's sort of a little bit of a background. Now, having said that, we as a family were very close, and because we had to be. And by the time I was 6 or so, I remember working in the laundry. Every day after school, I would come back and do something in the laundry at work. So it began with sorting, but eventually it wasn't long before all of us, the children, were involved in some facet of, the laundry. Now, my family has a way of dealing with adversity, and we certainly experienced similar things as Richard did, and as probably Walter will tell you. But we dealt with it with a lot of humor, I have to admit. So one of the ways as kids we dealt with it, we would have races to see who could fold the most shirts. And we would sing songs. And I don't know if some of you are old enough to remember the song by Nancy Sinatra, "These Boots Are Made for Walking." Well, we take that song, and, for example, and we would change the words to "These irons are made for folding or pressing." And we would sing and laugh and be, pretty darn silly about the whole thing. And it helped us to, pass the time. As I got older, I had to work in the steam room. And in Delaware, which is not just hot, but it's also very humid. Boy, that was really murder. Because the sweat would just drip off me as if I was in rain. But we survived it. And the only thing that sort of saved us was if we had homework, because homework was the only thing that took precedent over our work obligations. So I made sure to make my homework last longer. As a result of that, I actually did well at school, which, of course, pleased my parents and fed into the model minority myth. And of course, they were proud I did well, but it was a two-sided coin. The flip side was, as I did well at school, I would get taunted by my peers for doing well or being a teacher's pet and so on. Anyway, it paid off. That is to say, my father sold the laundry. All the kids went to college. And I think the thing that I can sort of summarize is that it certainly taught us the value of not just work, but teamwork. And that you can get through just about anything if you learn how not to suffer alone. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Walter Wong. I'm out in California, but I was born and raised in Boston. I'm 71 years old. And for the first time in front of everybody today, I want to say I am a proud son of a laundryman. But truth be told, it wasn't always that way. As a young child, I felt ashamed of our family having a laundry because it played into Chinese stereotypes, and it inherently implied that we like to wash dirty laundry. We were Wong's Laundry that existed from 1948 to the mid-1970s, located in the working class district of Hyde Park in Boston. The family-run laundry consisted of my father, Wong, my mother, my brother John, my brother William, my sister Linda, and myself, and where I began working at the age 8 in the laundry. It was not only the place that we worked, it was our first home. It's where we ate, it's where we bathed, with no hot water, by the way, where we slept, and where we grew up. So what was it like? These memories have been tucked away in the far corners of my mind for well over 50 years. The sights that come to mind: 5 hot pressing machines used for different parts of the shirt. Our family of 6 working together. The fluorescent lighting that seemed to amplify our yellow skin. The sounds, the release of compressed air from the pressing machines. An AM radio blasting rock and roll music to help distract us from the tedious drudgery of the work. Touch, the heat from the presses, especially in the summer, when temperatures roll well over 100 degrees, plus humidity, and our bodies drenched in sweat. The burns on our skin from the presses, when we would momentarily lose focus, some leaving permanent scars. The smell, the lingering smell of dirty shirts embedded with the pungent sweat and body odor of the white man that we served. The outside world, the 50s and 60s, was a period of great change and turbulence, socially, culturally, politically, and racially. And this would at times come to us. We would be subject to racial taunts by the kids from the local Catholic school that came to the doorsteps of the laundry as we worked. This all seemed to come to a head when I refer to it as the egg incident. You can imagine this. Our laundry was located on Hyde Park Avenue, which is the main road in Hyde Park. Again, a working class Irish and Italian area. It was November of 1963. I remember it well because my mother was in the hospital, and also was the time when President Kennedy got assassinated. We were working, pressing shirts into the evening, and suddenly the window of the laundry got hit with raw eggs. We glanced out and saw the perpetrators, other teenagers. Myself, my 2 brothers, and my father, we rushed out of the laundry into the middle of the street, stopping traffic in both directions. As the 4 of us, we were able to reach and catch one of the perpetrators, pressing him to the ground, holding him down, my father catching up, kicking him. And then we grabbed him, twisting his arm, bringing him back to the laundry, getting him to confess what he had done, and ultimately made him clean up. But you got to imagine what it was like. This could have turned out to be very badly. 4 Chinese grabbing a white kid in a white community, stopping traffic. It was a scene I'll never forget. Against all of this, we proudly stood together as a family with hopes and dreams for a better future. I want to dispel any notions that this life was ever of a happy Chinese laundryman. It was hard physically, mentally, and emotionally, coupled with relentless racial prejudice. We, the laundry children, who managed to get some education, we broke new ground, often into non-traditional careers beyond the bounds of the laundry, and giving us great personal meaning to the phrase, free at last. Thank you for listening.
All our speakers so far, Professor Shonalo, artist in residence Wen Haotian,